Hello.
Welcome again here on this nice and friendly show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. I'm very good because also the summer is outside there, so we live both in Barcelona and it's
Yeah, we can't
fantastic.
complain. Yeah, no, it's definitely that's one of the reasons why I moved here. It's the weather, definitely.
Exactly, exactly. So that is what I say to all my friends in Northern Europe. I tell them that's why I live here.
Yeah,
And I think we are very lucky to be in this nice place. So summer is here and it's fantastic.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. So today's topic is self-leadership.
Yes, I thought it would be interesting to talk about it because I've been speaking recently with a lot of people, and this is something I usually it's one of the first things I talk about with my clients who are usually senior executives in companies and or in small business owners. But I've realized that it applies also to a whole other category of people that, I mean, I knew it, but it's become very apparent to me recently because as I started my own business, I'm speaking to a lot of people that are in the same situation as I am, having to do it all on our own, being solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. And self leadership becomes really, really important at that moment. And it's not something
Absolutely.
I'd really thought about that much. So I thought it might be interesting because I think it applies to so many people in so many different ways to talk about that today.
What is the difference? How would you define self-leadership with traditional leadership?
Well, traditional leadership is usually you're leading other people, right? But you can't lead anybody else unless you know how to lead yourself. That's what I believe. I believe you first need, because for me, leading it's starts with you. You have to lead by example. You have to showing you have to be a positive example, and it's through your behaviors and actions that you gain the trust and the motivation, and you inspire others to be better and to follow you. So before you do that, you actually need to take responsibility for yourself and displaying that behavior or the actions you'd like to see others do. So start with you, and you have to take responsibilities for your choices and your whatever you decide to do in life. So for me, that's self leadership. It's how you manage yourself first, and how you carry yourself, how you behave, and what messages you're sending about who you are and your values through that.
It's a very complex topic because I went through many stages in my life and I've been through a variety. I think I am blessed in a sense because I am multicultural and I lived in a variety of different environments, different countries, and I experienced different styles of leadership.
Hmm.
And I want to say that also this online world that we live and by having this online business requires also a different kind of leadership, which I was not aware. So the biggest challenge on my business, right, on which is a completely digital business, is the lack of loyalty with the people that you work, but also with your clients. So it's one thing is you are in the same office, everybody, and one thing is you meet your clients in person,
Hmm.
the old way it used to be back in the day. And another thing is that you are one click away to switch somebody off and go completely outside of his life. And what I realized, which is something that uh, changed completely the way I see things, to the better and to the worst, it has both sides, is that it has to be on a completely voluntarily base, and it has to be on a completely base where other people with you they want to do that. If they don't want anymore, there is no pressure to be put because they're going to leave anyway.
Hmm.
And what regards yourself, I think there is a big conversation the last years, at least what I see online, because I follow this American manager and leader, Jocko Willing, which he used to be a Navy SEAL, and he applies what he learned on the Navy SEAL teams to modern leadership. And he wrote also a book about leadership. And okay, he says what you say, that take responsibility of your actions, take ownership of your actions, and be disciplined. Discipline equals freedom, which is something very deep if you think about that you have control of your life and not your emotions on your life, and that motivation is secondary because none of us can be motivated every day. So I think there's a big turf of investigating and improving and starting with yourself. It's the most important part. What are your thoughts?
I definitely discipline is a big one. And it's, as you said, it goes back to taking responsibility for your actions. I think it starts also really with developing a self-awareness. You need to understand what your strengths, but also what are the things you need to improve on. And that can be very difficult to do alone. It's a challenge to be realistic when you're looking at the mirror. We all want to think we're the best. I think we always have a higher opinion of ourselves, or else the opposite. Some people just have a really bad opinion of themselves. And I think the foundation to build your self leadership is really understanding, your strengths, your weaknesses, your values and beliefs, and what's your purpose and what are your goals. So it's knowing yourself first very well, and often you need to be very intentional about that to develop that.
But what do you recommend, Maria? How can somebody, because it's not an easy task, no?
No, it isn't. And as I was saying, it's really hard to do alone, but you have to be intentional. As I was just saying, you need to block some time for you. One thing I never did
Yes.
in my past career, I was constantly firefighting. It was always work, work, work. And I never took time to sit back and think about myself, think about my how I could improve, how I could grow, what was I doing for me, not just for work. And so one thing when I did realize that I need to do these things was to block some time regularly for you but you have to put it like in your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, personally for me, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. So block some time to regularly, do stuff for you. Then one thing I found really valuable, and this is something lots of big companies do, but I mean, you can do it online, you can find somebody to do it for you, is asking for feedback. And I get it that asking, like your boss is really hard. If you're the boss, it's difficult to ask your people to give you like honest feedback. So one thing I did that I thought was super valuable was, and it's scary too, is to do these 360s. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's an anonymous survey that goes out to your peers, your superiors, and people who work for you, and they answer a whole bunch of questions and basically give feedback on you. But as it's anonymous, nobody knows who said what, and you get enough people to give like a sort of baseline and get some real feedback on how you're perceived by other people. Because perception is even if you might not agree with it, but their perception is a reality. So it's really important to know how you're coming across and how maybe some of your actions might influence or affect other people. So I found that very helpful.
Okay.
And then I think reflecting on your thoughts and feelings, which personally it's not something I'm really good at doing, but some people are, and they journal or they write down. But if you're not, consider getting a coach or a mentor, somebody who can help you hold that mirror up and say, hey.
But let me ask you something, because you regarding the 360, okay?
Yeah.
The feedback. I mean, I understand it's scary at the same time, but very valuable at the other side to get this feedback. My question here is the feedback that you are going to receive from other people. what kind of maturity and what kind of honesty, I want to explain that a little bit, the honest part. They might be honest on the feedback that they give to you, but this honesty that is being given to you, it's being conditioned from the wider perspective that they have and the beliefs that they have, that probably it doesn't reflect the reality. So people also live in a world that think things are like this, and a leader should behave like that. But it's that what they really want? It's that what they really need, or is that a feedback that you receive based on a cliche that they have? That is I don't know if that makes sense what I say.
Yeah. Well, you're becoming very philosophical.
Yes, I'm becoming.
Yeah, I get
I
what you
believe the reality of things is below the surface. It's not always what we see. And don't take me wrong, I'm not like a conspiracy person at all, but not what we see. It's the real reason.
Yeah,
it's something behind, and you need to find out what is the real reason. And for many people, that is very hard for them to accept that it is.
Yeah, I think there's not like one shoe fits all. First of all, I think for different people, different things would work. Some people are very good at, going inside and journaling and reflecting. Other people are more sensitive to feedback. Some people, I think it's figuring out what works for you. And yeah, when people give you feedback, at the end of the day, you decide to take it or not, right? You decide what you do with it. You decide if you want to believe it. But I think if you create a culture, and I was just giving the 360 as an example, because obviously not everybody's going to do that.
Very interesting, the 360. I'm going to Google that after our show, and
I found that very valuable. But I actually did it with a group of people, so we were a whole bunch doing it. Some people came out of that in tears because the responses were pretty brutal. So it works in the way that you do get feedback. But what you can do is if you create, as a leader, if you create a culture where feedback is something that everybody does, that it's acceptable, that you ask your people to give you feedback too, and that they know that it's safe, that there's not going to be a consequence to sharing. You create a safe space, and you give and you start creating a space where people will share things because they feel like, why we're doing this because it helps us grow, it helps us get better, and it helps us improve. So I think, as a leader, if you want to improve, you need to create that culture where everyone around you feels safe to do it, and you will benefit from it too. Because the key is to understand, what you do, what are your behaviors, how you do it, those are your actions, and then why you do it, those are your motivations. If you understand those three things, you become very self-aware, right?
Yes, self-aware is also a word. So I can tell you what helped me the last years. Actually, I would describe that as my second rebirth, was doing mindfulness classes and understanding. So this understanding was one of the biggest discoveries for myself the last years. Understanding that you are not your thoughts and you are not your emotions.
That's very
so
true.
It's the mind that is the observing mind, the mind that observes. That is the real you. And once you understand you are not your thoughts and your emotions, then you are aware of your feelings, you are aware of situations, and you can see that as an observer, and you can control it, and you have a better understanding of yourself. You can drive yourself in the right direction, and you become a better person. So that was a big discovery for me, a big realization. It might sound not so deep, but it is very deep.
I think mindfulness is definitely something.
So I would absolutely, certainly recommend to everybody do mindfulness. It's something very practical and realistic. It doesn't have any kind of supernatural or religious elements inside,
No.
but it's something that really helps you um, understand yourself better.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think today, more than ever, I think mindfulness is definitely something everybody should be aware about, because we're in a world where we're constantly being pulled in all directions. Our attention and our mind is constantly filled with stuff, and being able to block all that noise out and focus on one thing and actually enjoy the present moment of whatever you're doing, I think
absolutely.
it's becoming a luxury. And it's if you don't intentionally decide to do that, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. So there is and I feel it because I'm sitting in front of the computer all the day.
Yeah.
This continuous stimulation
Mm.
with the screen that you have in front of you, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy constantly to distract your mind with something.
Yeah.
Um, so even if this something is something positive, so what I do is when I go running, I listen my audiobooks that I have, but it's still even this audiobook, which it's educational, it's informative, it's something very positive. But again, uh, I now I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to go run and don't have any stimulation.
Yeah.
To have to get some peace of mind.
Mm. Block out
And
the
that's
noise.
like you said, it's becoming a luxury.
Yeah.
What
Well, I think,
happens if you don't get the stimulus continuously to have real silence?
yeah, but taking care of yourself is a huge part of self leadership. I think whether it's, as you said, mindfulness, exercise, eating well, sleeping well,
Yes,
not over over drinking or partying. And because when your body doesn't follow, that's where you go into burnout. So it helps you manage stress. um, those are all little things, little strategies that will change your life and help you manage yourself effectively. So if your body and your mind is strong, it will be easier to manage anything that's being thrown at you, whether it's stress, whether it's work, whether it's challenges. If you're good and strong in your body and your mind,
they
you can
say.
take anything. and
Yes,
and that kicks on to resilience also, because being resilient is also a big part of self leadership. Being able to bounce back when things get tough is really, really important.
they say that you should treat yourself as somebody that needs attention, that
Yeah.
somebody like a third person that needs to be taken care of, and many times we forget that, and that has a negative effect in any aspect of your life, because by starting not treating yourself correctly, so not respecting yourself, if you don't respect yourself, how do you expect the others to respect you?
Mm.
So I think it's to be a leader, you need to be first a leader to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading your life,
Absolutely.
whether it's at work or not, or outside of work, because everything is linked.
Of
And
course.
I'm a big believer of staying positive and figuring out ways to solve problems, and it's having a positive mindset. I'm an optimist.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and I think
Correct. Very
believing
good.
believing things are going to get better. All these things contribute to a growth mindset, resilience, feeling well, and being able to take care of yourself, but also appreciate what you have, being grateful, surrounding yourself with people who are positive and who will encourage you.
Yes, absolutely.
All these things are little pieces of the puzzle that, brought together, is going to build a strong person and a strong leader who's going to be able to take responsibility and lead themselves, and then effectively lead others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I think it's for me it's the starting point is to take care about yourself, think about yourself, understand who you are, and then by having this understanding, then you can lead also others. Leadership is also a cultural thing,
Mhm.
Maria. I
Yeah.
noticed, but uh, overall, um, for example, in many cultures, kindness is being perceived as weakness. That
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
and if people have been also in the military and they see the way they lead in the military is a kind of leadership that is not applicable in the real world because you have
Yeah.
yes that's an absolute truth because you have all these people that are by force in this kind of society of kind of environment which I mean that brings a different sort of leadership unfortunately or fortunately I would say better
Mm.
it's when you have free people and in this online world free people I mean they are so free that they can go away from you in a second then certainly you cannot lead like you lead in the military.
Mm.
We have a comment from Mr. Amar bin Akhtar. He says, being a leader demands leading your life and daily activities. Overruling yourself is the first step for self leadership. I cannot agree more, Amar. You are absolutely right. It starts from you, respecting yourself, leading yourself, understanding your weaknesses, being able to see as an observer your emotions and your feelings. And then once you can control and lead yourself, then certainly you can control and lead the others as well.
And I think it's important to say that you don't have to do it alone. I mean, personally, I've never hesitated to ask for help when I needed it, whether it's from your boss, whether it's from a
Yes,
colleague, a peer, or even, professionals, therapists, or it's okay to ask for help. And I think none of us, I mean, if somebody who thinks that they're doing it alone, I would have to disagree, but nobody can do anything alone. And I think sometimes looking at ourselves is really hard, and having someone to help you do that can really help. So, you know if I know personally I'm not very good at it, it helps me a lot to speak things through with somebody else, whether they're a professional or not. But just having someone to bounce things against, speak about whatever is bothering you, frustrating you, challenging you, or
yes.
how, it's just a huge help and support. And it's not weakness to go and ask for help. That's something also
Quite
to
the contrary,
out
it
there.
is strength. But through my
Exactly.
experience, what I saw, it's frustrations and anxiety. It feels like it's you're drawing in an ocean of desperation. However, many times, at least on my case, uh, when I had a discussion with certain professionals, the enlightenment and the solution was so easy, was revealed in front of my eyes.
Mm.
And since then, it was maybe, if not everything, but big issues on the way I see things and I manage things have been solved. And what I want to say is that yes, have these discussions. There are psychologists in companies or outside in the market, mindfulness that can help you get rid of these issues, this anxiety, this
Stress.
stress that you have because it's
Stress
an
is huge.
artificial stress. You create that in your head. It doesn't exist in reality. It exists because your mind creates that. By changing your mindset, you're going to be able to change uh, the way you see things, the way other people see you, and the way you lead. But I feel I'm talking more than you, and you should be there.
No, no, it's fine. No, I feel like we're going in lots of directions, but at the same time, I think it all comes back to the same thing. It starts with you. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about knowing yourself. It's about understanding yourself, and it's about taking the time to do that, because I think that's probably, time management, I think, is one of the most common issue my clients have, and all of them, they all have it. And making the time, it's not taking it, it's making the time to put yourself first. And by doing that, it's just like, when you get on the plane and they tell you, before you put the mask on somebody else, you have to put on yourself.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. You need to be functioning to help the others to function. So make the time for you, make the time to think about what's important for you, and take care of yourself. I'd say those are the things, the most important in self-leadership. And work on your self-awareness, because it's not easy. And I know, especially founders in companies, they struggle with that, because they get to a certain point where, what they've been doing has worked up to them, and then they want to grow their business more, but they don't realize that the skills they currently have might not work further, and nobody's there to tell them. So again, it's about being isolated, not having that mirror, not having someone telling you, giving you that feedback. So working on, self-awareness, it's about not being afraid to go away and ask people, how am I doing? What, how are things going? How could I make it better? How could I improve? Because in isolation, you can't do it.
But you know what happens, Maria? If you are a control freak like I am, so I build everything from myself, okay, and I can do everything very good, but then it comes a point that you cannot do everything by yourself.
No.
You have to give to people responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I didn't trust people on giving more complex responsibilities. But there came a point that I said, no, enough is enough. I cannot do that. And I gave them complex responsibilities. And the answer was that they were doing those things even better than I was doing them.
Yeah.
So it was my fault that I didn't trust them. It was my fault that, and if something goes wrong, how wrong can it go?
Yeah.
It's okay. You did that wrong. You delivered the wrong report. Okay, hopefully our client is going to forgive us. That happens.
Yeah.
There is no other way. Mistakes happen. And the benefit at the end of giving away to other people who things, it was so beneficial to me to be able to focus on what really matters.
Yeah. Yeah, and you learned something about yourself also.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there you are.
I learned to trust the other people, and that the other people, yes, they can handle also very complex tasks, and they can even come with ideas that I never thought, and have a better result at the end that I could bring. And the other people feel also nice to have this responsibility. They feel valued, because that's also very important. It's not only the money that you make from a job, it's also the how fulfilled you feel from the job that you're doing.
Yeah, empowering them and giving them
absolutely
trusting them to go and do their job. That's
yes.
I think one of the top things people want when they take on a job. It's not the money. It's about feeling that they have a purpose, and that people trust them, and that they're doing something that matters.
And I had these positive feedbacks in our company for people saying, I'm so happy working for you. So I was so happy to hear that,
Yeah.
And I really love that, to hear that people are happy to work, and that it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think those are great words for the end, because we want people to be happy.
Yes, that is the bottom line, Maria, is to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. All the rest is secondary.
Well, the rest will follow. If you're happy, the rest will follow, right?
Absolutely. So very nice. Thank you, Maria, for this episode.
Thank you,
and
Alex.
I will see you again in 2 weeks, and let us enjoy the nice weather.
the summer. See you in 2 weeks.
Good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.